shouldn't be writing this. Every word feels like a betrayal, as though the shadows themselves lean closer, listening for secrets they were never meant to hear. But silence is heavier than truth, and if I keep what happened locked inside me, it will devour me piece by piece until nothing of me remains. So I write to you, whoever you are, not for forgiveness, not for sympathy, but so someone else will know what it means to be loved by something that does not let go. I tell myself I survived my own wedding dress, though some nights I wake and wonder if I truly did. Perhaps I am already buried in it, my breath stilled, my body bound tight in silk and lace, and this confession is only the echo of a ghost scratching against the page. But if I am alive, then you must understand, love did not save me. Love cursed me, or maybe I cursed it. If you're still listening, maybe you felt it too. That dangerous sweetness, that devotion that tastes of honey until it draws blood. Mine began the moment I touched the gown. Antique, ivory white, stitched with pearls that glimmered like captive tears. It waited for me in silence, folded in the dark, yet when I opened the trunk it seemed to breathe, and when my eyes met its fabric for the first time, I swear, the dress looked alive. The attic smelled of dust and cedar, a place where forgotten things slumbered, tucked away from living eyes. I had no reason to climb those stairs that day, except that something, curiosity or fate, pulled me upward. My fingers traced the banister, each step creaking beneath me, until I reached the farthest corner where a trunk sat waiting, its brass hinges dulled but unbroken. The lock had rusted through, as though it wanted me to open it, and when I lifted the lid, the air shifted, warm, then cold, as though something sighed. Inside lay the gown, folded so carefully, so lovingly, it might have been laid down only hours before. The fabric was ivory, the color of candle smoke against moonlight, and every pearl stitched into its bodice glistened like a teardrop held just before it falls. I touched it lightly, and for one wild moment I thought the fabric rose beneath my hand, like the shallow breath of someone asleep. It was perfect. Too perfect. The lace sleeves curved into the exact shape of my arms. The hem brushed against the floor at the exact length I'd imagined for my own wedding. The longer I stared, the more certain I became that it was waiting. For me, I called him then, my fiancé. His footsteps echoed on the stairs before he appeared in the attic doorway, his eyes catching the shimmer of the dress. When he saw it draped against my hands, his breath caught, and for a moment, I thought he might weep. "It was made for you," he whispered. But there was something in his voice, something trembling, as though he spoke a blessing and a warning at once. I turned away to answer him, but when I looked back, I swear, the dress shifted on its own. I tried to convince myself it was only fabric, only silk and thread, nothing more. But each evening, when the candles burned low and shadows crept along the mansion's walls, my thoughts drifted back to the dress in the attic. And when I looked into my lover's eyes, I swore I saw the reflection of that gown shimmering there, as though it lingered between us even when we kissed. He was tender with me in those days. His hands brushed my hair from my face as though I were made of glass. His lips found mine with the soft desperation of someone who knows how easily love can break. We whispered plans for the wedding, where the vows would echo, which roses would line the aisle, and for a moment I felt safe. Safe in his arms, safe in the warmth of his voice. But the house never let us be entirely alone. Candles extinguished themselves with no wind to stir them. The mirrors fogged as though someone breathed against the glass from the other side. Once, as he kissed the hollow of my throat, a cold draft swept through the room, rattling the chandelier above us until dust rained down on our embrace. I laughed nervously, but my heart hammered with dread. If love saves us, I thought, why does mine taste like blood on my tongue? That night, as we sat by the fire, he took my hand and pressed it to his lips, his eyes glinting with something unspoken. "Don't ask where it came from," he said suddenly, as though I had spoken of the dress aloud. His voice was taut, urgent. "Just promise me you'll never wear it at night." I wanted to question him, to demand the truth, but his gaze silenced me. He kissed me again, and for a heartbeat the world was only us. Later, when I returned to my room, my heart stopped. For though I had left it locked in the attic, the wedding dress lay stretched across my bed, waiting, perfect, alive. It began with a sound so slight I thought I was dreaming, a hushed stirring in the darkness, the soft rustle of fabric brushing against itself. At first I told myself it was nothing, the wind against the curtains, the creak of the house settling. But the sound grew sharper, nearer, as though someone walked across my floor with skirts trailing behind her. I held my breath, waiting. When I lit the candle, the room was empty, and yet the sound persisted. The dress. It lay across the chair where I had tried to ignore it, its folds pooling like spilled ivory. My chest tightened as I stepped closer. It was beautiful, unbearably so. A beauty that felt dangerous, like the sweetness of poisoned fruit. I told myself I only wanted to feel it against my skin, only for a moment, only to prove I could. The instant the fabric touched me, it clung like water, sliding up my body as if it had been waiting. I pulled it over my shoulders, and the lace sleeves sealed against my arms with a shiver of cold. For one heartbeat, I was radiant. I saw myself reflected in the mirror, a bride made luminous by candlelight. But then the bodice tightened, slowly at first, then with a terrible force. I gasped, clawing at the seams, but the dress constricted, squeezing the air from my lungs. I stumbled toward the mirror, and there she was. A pale bride, her eyes hollow, her mouth trembling with fury. Her lips moved, and though no sound filled the room, I heard her inside my skull. "You took him from me. Now you'll take my place." I choked, desperate, when arms wrapped around me, my fiancé's, pulling me back, tearing at the fabric. He whispered my name over and over, but when his hand pressed against my waist, I felt frost burn through the thin lace. I stared at him in terror. Was he saving me or binding me to her? At last the dress loosened, slipping to the floor with a hiss. My body shuddered with breath, but as I looked down, I froze. Around my ribs, faint red marks bloomed in the shape of fingers. Welts pressed deep into my flesh, as though the dress itself had tried to hold me. He would not meet my eyes at first. His hands trembled as he stoked the fire, though no warmth seemed to touch him. I sat rigid in my chair, ribs still aching where the dress had left its bruised embrace. The silence between us swelled until it became unbearable, and at last he turned, his face pale as the ashes falling from the hearth. "It wasn't supposed to touch you," he said. His voice was broken glass, sharp, fragile. "I should have destroyed it years ago." I pressed my hand against my ribs, feeling the raised marks there. "What is it? What have you brought into this house?" For a moment he looked as though he would lie, but then his eyes softened, grief spilling over, and I knew he could not hold back the truth any longer. "The dress belonged to her," he whispered. "My first love. Her." The word was a knife. He told me of their wedding day, how she had looked radiant in the very same gown, how every guest gasped when she walked down the aisle. But before the vows were spoken, she fell, collapsing in the church, hands clutching her throat as though unseen fingers were tightening the lace. They said it was a seizure, an accident, but he knew better. He swore he felt the dress shift against her, binding, pulling, choking the life from her body, until she lay still at his feet. "I should have burned it," he said, burying his face in his hands. But I couldn't, I loved her too much. And part of me still believed. It wasn't finished. A coldness crawled down my spine. He lifted his eyes then, haunted, desperate. "The dress chooses. It binds itself to the one who wears it. The spirit of the bride remains. She will not let another love live. Whoever puts it on is hers, claimed body and soul. Death does not end her hold." I wanted to scream, to accuse him, to run from him. Yet my heart ached at his sorrow. He had loved her once, and he loved me now. And between those two loves stretched a curse older than either of us. His fingers brushed mine, trembling. "If you do not wear it, we cannot marry. It is the price the dress demands. But if you do..." His voice broke. "I may lose you, as I lost her." The fire cracked, sending sparks into the dark. I leaned closer, my breath shaking, my lips barely forming the words. But I had already promised to wear it. The church glowed with hundreds of candles, their flames bending in the draft like souls leaning closer to listen. The air was heavy with incense and roses, but beneath it lingered something colder, metallic, the faint tang of blood. My footsteps echoed against the stone as I moved down the aisle, every gaze fixed upon me. Yet the guests did not shift, did not murmur. They sat like statues, faces pale, eyes unblinking, their stillness more terrifying than any whisper. The dress clung to me like a lover unwilling to let go. Its silk shimmered, radiant in the candlelight. But each step was agony. The lace cut into my skin, tightening with every breath. I felt the threads burrow into me as though they wished to sew me closed. Beneath the veil, my lips trembled, and I caught sight of my fiancé waiting at the altar. His eyes burned with love, with fear, with something deeper I could not name. Our hands met, his fingers warm against mine, though a tremor shook them. The priest's voice blurred into the hollow ringing of bells. I barely heard the vows. All I felt was the gown constricting, squeezing my ribs until my vision blurred. A trickle of warmth slid down beneath the fabric, and I knew it was blood. He leaned closer, whispering with a desperation that cracked his voice. "Say I do, and she will take you." I wanted to ask him what he meant, wanted to turn and flee, but the words tangled in my throat. Around us, the guests stared, unmoving, like painted eyes on canvas. Not one blinked, not one breath stirred the air. It was as if I stood before the dead. Pain surged as the dress pulled tighter, dragging me downward. My knees struck the stone. I gasped, clawing at the bodice, and from somewhere above, behind, within, I heard a scream. It was not mine, and yet it tore through me, raw and endless, shaking the very walls. He tried to hold me upright, his lips brushing my ear. "Fight her, please." His voice broke into a sob. The world spun. The candles guttered, the roses blackened. Darkness pressed in from every corner, wrapping me in velvet suffocation. My lips parted to speak the vow, but before the words left me, the shadows surged forward, swallowing everything whole. I woke to silence, though it was not the silence of peace. Above me arched the church ceiling, but through its stone ribs I saw stars glimmering over a graveyard sky. Candles burned on pews that melted into crooked headstones, and the aisle stretched endlessly between altar and tomb. I was caught between two worlds, and both claimed me. She appeared from the shadows, the first bride. Her veil floated as if underwater, her skin pale as milk, her lips bruised with the memory of death. Her eyes, hollow and endless, fixed on me with a hunger that was not entirely hatred. "You took him from me," she said, though her mouth barely moved. Her voice was the rustle of fabric, the tightening of lace. "Now you will give him back or take my place." Behind me I felt him, my love, his warmth bleeding into the cold. His hand reached for mine, and that single touch was enough to fill me with every reason I had to live. Yet her pull was stronger, dragging me toward her with the weight of the grave. To save him, I understood. I must surrender. Let her bind me in silk. Let her drag me beneath the earth where vows echo forever in silence. To live, I must break the chain, renounce him, and walk away from the only soul who ever saw me. "If you think love is a gift," I thought, trembling, "you've never been asked to die for it." The ground cracked open at my feet, stone and soil splitting into black. He whispered my name, his voice raw with pleading. She held out her hand, her mouth curling into something like a smile. My lips parted. I leaned closer, breath shaking, and whispered my final choice. "If these words reach you, then perhaps I am still alive." My hands move across the page, ink bleeding like veins, and I feel breath rise and fall in my chest. Yet sometimes when I press my palm to my ribs, the skin is cold where the welts once burned. Sometimes when I speak his name, no sound escapes me. He lies beside me now, his face turned toward mine in sleep. Or at least I tell myself it is sleep. His chest does not rise, his lips do not part, but his hand rests over mine as though holding me here. If I lean closer, I cannot tell whether it is warmth I feel, or only the lingering chill of her touch. I want to believe I chose love, that I was spared, that we will wake tomorrow as husband and wife. But another voice whispers that I am writing not from life at all, but from the place she pulled me into, where vows are shackles and kisses taste of earth. Perhaps I am the bride who came before, wearing your face, speaking your words, waiting for the next to take my place. And if you see a wedding dress in the mirror tonight, do not try it on.